Okay, for people joining this live stream, we are talking about language completeness and consistency. Is it a weekly meeting? I think it's a weekly meeting. And we've got a variety of topics. Operators for operator rafts.
Right. So I should guide you through this one. So obviously, there are a lot of sections here, and we probably should spend a little bit of time discussing each one. But right, we have this new feature in 12.1 where, like, if you do right f triple at x and then you hover over the triple at, you get right a little thing that tells you, oh, that's apply, and gives you
That's really cool.
Yes.
I remember vaguely talking about this feature ages ago. Okay.
Right. And so, I mean, we don't want to put them on every single operator. Like if we put them on plus, then,
what the heck is postfix? That doesn't make any sense.
Or that, in fact, that's exactly what I say right in my note. So if you put / into the help center, it will take you to postfix. But of course, postfix is a formatting wrapper that formats things in a sort of postfix notation.
Yeah, that's bonkers.
Right. So either we need to, I don't know if we need just a separate page or to just add a note that there's also this special input form, which is
I don't think it should go. No, look, I think this particular case.
Mm-hmm. It could also go to the operator input forms tutorial, which lists all of them, or maybe we need a new page for it. I don't know.
Let me think about it for a second. Okay, so the most useful thing to see here would be something like in parens, not in the same font as this, or not necessarily in parens, but in italics or something.
Postfix notation?
Yeah, something like that. Postfix notation might be a good thing to call it. Postfix function.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it should be noted here that the reference that you're getting is the same thing that you would get if you open the help viewer and type in //.
Yeah, this is completely bonkersy.
Yeah, so it makes sense. Or actually, it doesn't direct hit the postfix, but it only pulls up one result, which is postfix. So yeah, whatever we do, it makes sense to kind of fix it everywhere.
Right, and we also have this. So we have this problem with prefix, postfix, and with infix.
All right, look. I think what we should do is just call it
Is there anything that would break if we just made dedicated pages for these operators, dedicated function home pages?
But with what name?
Well, that's part of why I asked my question. It's
right. We could call them like // at and.
I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe we can synthesize a name that isn't.
Well, the name construct is, in a sense, @ could be documented on the construct page. I mean, they could both be documented on the construct page, but they're not, in fact, construct. That's the point. They're not.
Right.
And if you held them, they wouldn't be construct.
Exactly.
I mean, I think it's useful conceptually to have standalone pages for these guys.
I suppose the other possibility is we could create character pages for these characters. Is there any reason why character pages have to have? Well, I guess these don't have a long name, but especially // doesn't have a long name.
Hold on, let's think about it. No, it doesn't have a long name. That's the point. Okay, look, this is a special case. I don't think we should try and build a general system for it. Let's just figure out what the best thing to do in the special case is. By the way, can somebody please comment that the slashes in this page are the wrong font? They look the wrong font to me.
Yeah, I can make a note.
Okay, so the question is, what do you want this to do? What will be the most useful thing for this to do? So imagine something more real, where you've got blah, 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 / matrix form or something. You know what I'm saying? And you see that in a piece of code. Look, I think the most useful thing to do would be to say postfix function application. Although that's very technical.
Well, it doesn't really matter what you call the, well, I suppose we have to have some text here, but in my view, the more important point is, where does the I go to, which is the help problem.
Well, if we even have an I. What about if this one, okay, what would the look, the point is you don't need a big essay on this. All you need to know is this is equivalent, what would we like it to say? Let's imagine that what it could say, this is what do you fundamentally want to see there? You fundamentally want to see, is f of x. That's what you need to know. That's the long beginning and end of what you need to know.
That's true.
So, sending you to a page to go discover this fact is how about,
we could say just have that text right there. X, stylized x / f is f of x.
Yeah.
And then the same thing for prefix and infix.
Based on operator precedence, people might want to know actually how far the matrix form extends, where they're more.
I don't think we do that with any other operator lookup, though. I don't.
Yeah, let that be greenery, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right.
If you look up /add, it'll take you to map, and I don't think map says anything about precedence at all. You have to actually look up the precedence table.
I see.
It's its own different issue. To mention that on those pages, the precedence. But honestly, we are now solving the precedence problem with these UX things, and I just don't think it's okay. So let's just think what this. Do we have anybody from design here? Could we try and
we do not, because we weren't planning to talk on any designy things today. But maybe Devin can get someone.
Steve on our live stream is saying that really wants to explore the nuances of these operators. This one is very unnuanced. It really is just the same as this. It's literally just
right. If you did hold complete of x / f and then hit that with full form, or even without full form, right? You just get f of x.
Yeah. So it's really nothing more than a syntactic. I wonder if the word is the right word. Becomes?
Technically, it's parses too, but that may be too technical.
Too technical.
Is interpreted as?
Long, too long. It's good concept, though.
Is equivalent to.
Is interpreted as is better. If we can get that to work graphically, that's what I think we should do. And I think that for now, we should not eye it to anywhere. I think in the page, the precedence page, which this isn't, but operator precedence. Yeah, this is a kind of, this is a 30-year-old tutorial, which I guess has been kept up to date.
It's kept at least partially up to date because it's such a major pain to update.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's definitely complete with respect to ASCII operators. I'm sure there are Unicode operators which are missing.
Yeah. I mean, Unicode operators generally aren't dealt with here, but as far as ASCII operators is concerned, Itai and I consider this canon, and any variation between this and front end or kernel behavior is automatically a bug, and often quite a serious one too.
Fair enough. I mean, one day this page should get reformatted more nicely, but it's not terrible right now.
Well, I wouldn't complain about that because it's a huge pain in the butt to make changes to as well.
Why?
Because you have a grid with like 150 rows and, you know, dividers in random places. So if you add or delete anything, you have to very, very, very carefully count rows and then adjust the true false in the divider.
Can I make a suggestion?
And DocuTools has no tooling for editing a table like this.
Okay, but maybe we should turn this into a series of cells so that we don't have that problem. And just format it as a stack of cells.
That could be done.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you know, for example, putting that as a caption underneath, that was good when it was in a book 30 years ago. It's really not the right place for it now. You know, I think we should just list, you know, I mean, this should just have a minor refactor, and it can be retooled in terms of the way it's entered, which would help things, and so on. Yeah, this page is not the most attractive in terms of just the pure look of it. Okay. Yeah, we're the guys who are commenting on things on our live stream. I would like to say that in the new version, look at that, isn't that beautiful? It explains what it is. So the only thing we were having trouble with is the ones that don't have a function version. I think this is really nice to be able to do this. Okay, I think we should try and do this. As interpreted as f of x, we should do x tilde f tilde y is interpreted as, and we should just try and style this to look as good as we can. Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay, onward to the next item.
Right. So yeah, the next one, I think, right, these are, I'm not right. We gave one definition of not too common, which is you won't see them in input form, and that's clearly literally wrong, I think. But so here are a bunch more. I think these.
It should be add to. What is the issue? The issue that
the issue is, should there be a raft at all?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't there be a raft?
Well, because if you have a raft on every plus and minus, it's first of all, it's silly, and second of all, it can actively,
Right. Okay. So the question is,
field of mouse overs.
The question is, it's kind of like, do you supply enough lifeboats on the ship? Who doesn't get a raft?
Right.
I think the answer is things where the notation is absolutely standard in. So let's just look at the operator precedence table, and I can
right. So I have a list there of what we currently give, what is missing, and maybe worthwhile.
Okay, so these should definitely every single one of these should be rafted.
Okay, and they all are, right? So
okay, fine.
And the next section is also things which are currently rafted. Pattern is
tricky because it could be optional, but does it know whether it's optional or whether it's pattern?
No, it doesn't. And right now it currently refs as pattern always, which is
probably the better thing to do. But I mean, couldn't we do that in this case? That's a pattern, and that's not a pattern. That's an optional. Surely we can do that correctly.
Right.
Because that's actually misleading.
Right. But if it's B blank colon C with no A colon, then it's suddenly.
Yeah. That's right, because we know that syntactically.
The kernel knows this because it can parse the whole expression and knows. But
my point of view about this is, we really have to get this right. I mean, I have to get this right.
I mean, so you have to appreciate the only thing the front end understands is, it knows how to scan operators. It understands precedence and it understands associativity.
Okay. Well, what is that structure that got built there?
Well, that has nothing to do with what but that has nothing to know with what the front end knows about. The kernel took that raw row box, which is a flat ternary row box, and turned it.
Okay, so I don't understand how the clicker.
If you want to see the associativity, triple click on one of the colons. So that captured everything. Now triple click on the other one.
I'm not a very good triple clicker. It captured everything again.
Right.
Okay.
Because
So it's being treated simply as a flat operator.
I see. So at the boxes level, that's flat.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's messy.
So
I mean, this is honestly a bug that it says that this is. I mean, look, honestly, I think we got to scan for the obvious cases and try and do this. We just got to have a heuristic to do this and do the best we can, and try to not say it's pattern when it's actually going to be optional. Okay.
I think the alternative is we have links to both.
No, that's just us wimping out. We know which it is. I mean, this is a computerizable thing, which it is. Let's try and invent a heuristic. If we're not sure, leave it blank. Just don't put anything there for now. But I'm sure we can resolve this at the front end, at the level of the front end. I mean, it's not that complicated a syntax. We've got the whole syntax for this listed right here. It's right. Well, no, it isn't right here. I mean, can you try to make this work? I think it's a regex. Yeah.
It's not. I mean,
you say it's not that complicated of a syntax, but what happens if you have A colon B colon C colon D? And I mean, that unambiguously parses to something, but the rules are tricky.
Whew. That's not what I would have expected. Look, this is a corner case. Try to do the best you can to give the right indication, and don't give any indication if you're not sure.
Okay. Right. So if we think these all belong, then
absolutely they all belong. Most definitely.
Then we should also add pattern test to that list. Which
absolutely
may or may not be in my next section of ones which don't currently have refs, but
okay, that two-way rule absolutely needs a raft.
Okay. What about increment and decrement?
Hell yes.
Okay.
I mean, you only know those if you happen to know C or something.
Well, no. It's not one operator. That's two operators.
Yeah.
Pre-increment.
Pre-increment to post-decrement. Well, listen, it's the same story as in the colon case. Okay, this is not the most important thing in the world. Okay. But let's try to get it right if we can. If we think that, look, realistically,
I mean, if the guidance from you is get it right or don't put it up, that's something we can implement, very quickly.
Sure,
that'd be fine by me. I think in the case of increment, I would suggest, let's see, increment is the post case, right? Pre-increment is the other.
Yeah.
Case.
And
Okay.
this one, this one should be doable, right? Because it should be able to tell
It's
whether
it's doable by the front end. It's just that you have to add yet more checks and yet more cases. That makes
okay. Listen, what I would do in this one, for the time being, for this version, just bring up increment and decrement, and don't worry about the pre-increment, pre-decrement case. You're close enough to know that it's increment. It means you're not thinking it's some string join or something. Make sense?
right.
So I would say that one we could have it be a bug for the time being that doesn't know that it's pre-increment when it's before. Two-way rule, I see absolutely no excuse for not bringing that one up. Why isn't that one coming up? I mean, is that just an oversight or?
Well, you have to distinguish between the two-way rule character and the ASCIIfied two-way rule. I mean, they're both missing, but
okay, the ASCIIfied one I'm less concerned about than because in a notebook it's going to turn into this basically.
Right, but
typically.
Okay, so let's make sure this one works. The other one that is important is undirected edge, things like that. Those
are on my list. So why don't we go through my list and we can.
Okay, fine. Upset delayed. That's a can of worms.
Yeah, so I guess we don't have tag set, and we don't have. We don't also have clear, which might be useful.
It would be nice to have. Clear would be very nice to have. This one, couldn't we at least do the colon / colon part of this?
That should be pretty straightforward.
Let's do it. Let's not worry about the other part. I mean, in the other part, if we say that the other part is define or whatever, that I think we'll live with that.
Yeah, / direct hits in the help viewer. Anything that direct hits in the help viewer is very trivial for us to add.
All right, fine, do it. And don't worry about the fact that this, again, please list it as a bug, which at some point we should think about, but I don't think it's the most important thing immediately to get the colon equals part of this correct. Okay.
Right. So these are currently rafted guys. I think they're pretty.
Raft them. There's no way to not raft them. Nobody's going to know what they are.
Right.
They might if they know logic notation, they'd know not. If they know some, I think we invented these notations, so they're not going to know these notations.
Oh, is and an or not there? I think those should also be there. Of course
they should be rafted. And an or should of course be rafted.
Yeah, I thought they were on the list. Maybe, but okay, we'll fix those. Right, and so then I have sort of two sections with.
Can I ask a question here about things that don't. Things like circle plus, that the unevaluated operators.
Right. So if you looked at our principles, principle 2 says that ones without a built-in meaning don't get raft.
Okay, hold on. Which are too common.
Which are not too common. Right. So
operators. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. That's a good criterion. So which ones are? So for example, is slot rafted?
No.
I think it should be.
Well, first of all, it's not an operator.
Maybe it's not an operator.
Slot is not an operator.
It's not. It's an operand.
Operand, or arguably a special input form. So, question mark is ampersand is an operator.
Yeah. Okay, and that's rafted.
And that's rafted.
Do not get rafts, but ones with a built-in meaning do get a raft. I agree with that.
Right. I mean, there are a few. So if you go and look at my list, there are a few sort of.
Okay, I would like to argue that these special input forms, like hash sign, should get a raft. Although let's not worry about it for this version.
Okay. Well, that's potentially a lot of pop-ups, right? I mean, you have a lot of them in close succession.
Yeah, that's not good. But it'd be nice if somehow you could tell what is that thing. You see it in a piece of code. And it's like, what is that thing?
Well, you can always select it and hit F1, or you can.
You know, F1 has become more and more difficult to hit. Like on my Mac keyboard, I barely know how to hit F1. Most times I hit F1, it makes my screen go dimmer.
Okay.
Oh, that's because you need to go into settings to tell the Mac that you want the F keys to actually be F keys, because by default they think that the F keys should be overloaded as the dim and play.
I know, which is perfectly useful, but
I disagree.
Right.
But anyway,
right.
But I actually have the opposite problem where I accidentally hit F1 or some other key that pops up the help when I didn't actually want it.
By the way, the startup of the help is awfully slow in the 12.1 that I have right now. Is that about to get better?
Well, there are lots of dependencies around it. It's difficult to give a complete answer to that succinctly. There's some things I know about.
Okay. I mean, I think it's an important thing for QA to be looking at. I think there's a problem.
Well, so, I mean, one of the big issues I know is that there are issues around kernel startup that are, that when you first start the product, that can be problematic.
Okay.
And that's definitely on my list.
Okay. Let's go on here. So I'm good. Okay, so can we please make a note?
Well,
the special input forms are a separate issue to be discussed at another time.
Okay, and
I agree with these principles otherwise.
And can we just quickly look? I mean, there are a couple of ones I put question marks in my two groupings there of probably worthwhile and you were there. The two closed sections, so probably worthwhile and probably not worthwhile.
Let's look at probably not worthwhile first. I'm thinking here. Rule delayed is a possibility. What do you think? Or you think it's too horrifying to have it?
I mean, I think people type in rule delayed significantly less often than rule. So in that sense, it's probably not completely horrifying, but it does seem weird to do one and not the other.
Is this all of the operators?
These are the ones that are currently rafted because we need to specifically list them to associate.
I mean, something like this discrete ratio operator, we absolutely should raft that because nobody has.
Yes, and that is in the worthwhile list.
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay. So all right. So if I went through I haven't gone through this table, and I basically just sort of brainstormed which ones I didn't see in Tom's list. Right, so Tom came up with a list. I have reviewed it and split it into these sections. I went through the Unicode table, and I have in my probably worthwhile and probably not worthwhile sort of, I think, all of the Unicode operators which have a built-in meaning. Right, for all and there exists are sort of, I have them as probably worthwhile, but with a question mark because on the
Here's
one
hand,
you
might have forgotten, is that guy.
It's there.
Good for you.
If you look in my list, so can we scroll up to my list? Right.
Okay.
So,
okay. Here we go. Okay.
Right.
What is permutation product?
It's how you combine permutations.
I
right?
know what it is. I mean, at that level.
But it looks like a circle dot.
Oh my gosh! Raft it.
Exactly.
Absolutely raft it. How could we not raft that? Okay, limit. Yeah, you got to raft that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely raft these. They're incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Are we rafting caret for power?
No, we are not.
Yeah.
I was just asking because I think that's one of those ones that different languages have different syntax for that. And so it may.
Well, I agree that that's true, but I also think that most languages tend to standardize on caret. Not all of them, you're right, but I think most of them do.
Okay, I've got a crazy idea for you.
Mm-hmm.
Slow rafts. If you hang around long enough around a caret, it brings up a raft.
Doesn't seem very useful, right? The probability that you would do that seems...
No, because you don't see a raft, right? What do you do when you don't see a raft? I claim you don't see a raft, you stay there waiting to see if a raft is going to come up. That's what I would do, at least.
No, I would jiggle to go, where the heck is my raft?
Oh my God, that has a raft.
It that... I'm pretty sure we removed it. Maybe there's a build issue or
it shouldn't have a raft.
Yeah.
Also, how does the wait for a raft interact with what I assume is a preference for a default time to wait for a raft that I usually set to 2 seconds or something?
It's the same. So the same thing that's used for the function tooltips is the same delay that's used for function tooltips is used for the operator rafts.
Right. So my point is that having a second class rafts with a delay, is that on top of that initial delay, or is that overriding that initial delay?
On top of it. An extra second, an extra half second. That would be my proposal. I think it's look, okay, the hit rate for people who are confused is not going to be 100%. But reducing confusion, having a 30% probability of reducing confusion is still worthwhile. So that would be my suggestion, is a slow raft mechanism. That a secondary raft mechanism for some of these other things that we think are too common. At least one person on our live stream is supporting slow rafts. Good.
So is the raft location on that caret correct?
No, it's wrong. It absolutely should not be overprinting the thing.
So there's a cube root character.
Raft it.
Okay.
In my opinion, even though it's standard mathematical notation, but people are not going to know that you could type it as a single function.
Right.
For all and there exists, they're not that common, and people who are, if you're a quantifier poobar, you're going to know what they are. But if you see it in a piece of code, you have no idea why there's an upside down, backwards E thing.
Okay.
Heck yes for divisible. Absolutely, you're never going to know what it is otherwise. Yes for cross, for sure. The times character, I don't think should be rafted, except maybe a slow raft.
Okay.
I mean, I think everything could have I think everything could have a slow enough raft, he says. Okay, continued fraction K, absolutely. These weird things, absolutely, because nobody will have any idea what they are otherwise.
Yeah.
Directed edge and undirected edge, absolutely. Conditioned, absolutely. Distributed, absolutely. Function, absolutely.
Right. So we have these weird transpose characters, which are sort of, you don't superscript them because they were made.
They're pre-superscripted.
Right.
They're born superscripted. Yeah.
Exactly. And they're kind of funky, but on the other hand, they're not used very often. So maybe we should just do them.
We should raft them. Absolutely. Okay. Why not? Why wouldn't we? I mean,
especially because I think there's different conventions on like what star means.
Star is the best one, and also dagger sometimes.
We should absolutely raft. I don't see any reason not to.
Okay. Well, just because I think we should probably make them go away and come up with a better solution, but be that as it may.
Somebody who recently joined our live stream is asking, what is rafting? Okay, we've got to explain that. Where can we find one that is rafted? That's otherwise.
It involves a river with lots of white water.
It's putting up this thing that is an attached I don't know why we started calling them rafts. I'm sure that was my name for them.
It was your name for them, yes.
Yes, and when I first heard of operator rafts, I asked the exact same question. So, what the heck is an operator raft? So,
right.
But just you didn't opine on partial D, so that's.
I would say yes. Why not?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, again, people don't know how to type it. Look, I think there are two reasons to have these. One, I mean, the number one reason to have them is they appear in code that you were given, and you have no idea what they are.
Right.
And
sorry.
Go ahead.
Is star caret considered an operator? And if not, how does it get a raft?
It should get a raft if we can give it a raft. It's a special input form, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Look, both that and wedge should get rafts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not considered an operator, to answer your question.
Right. And it's not clear what raft could say. Yeah. I mean, it's going to have to be a special raft, like the / one.
Right, and if you unformat that cell, I think we'll see that's all a single token.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the front end doesn't even consider it a separate token, much less an operator.
Okay, that's a separate project for another day.
Yeah,
but it will be worthwhile. I mean, honestly, we should. I think we should. Percent would be an interesting one. I think this. Where are the input forms? Where are the special input forms? Where's the star wedge?
Star wedge may not be on this page.
How could it not be on here?
Because
it's got a precedence, doesn't it?
No,
it doesn't.
It's not an operator.
Right, it's part of a number.
And my recollection is there's an entirely separate page specifically about numbers.
Ugh. Which means that things like precision marks should get rafts one day as well. Okay, look, we've got several messes here. Okay, so first point is these special input forms should get rafts, but we're not going to be able to do that yet. Second point, complaints on the live stream that are very valid about how do you get to, I mean, the tutorial about input syntax, how do you see the syntax tables? The fact that these syntax tables were built for the book 30 years ago and have been, I mean, like all this stuff is really pretty useful, and we barely mention it. Oh boy, all this crazy stuff. I mean, this documentation could do with some modernization, at least in its presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least as part of, tech notes and whatnot, right? I think this is now all one tutorial, which it was probably seven separate tutorials in previous versions.
And I see something that's out of date on there. I'm going to go fix it right now.
Which, the colon, this thing with multi?
Yeah, there should be a / pipe notation. I've added that in a few different places, and I don't know how I overlooked this one.
Okay. All right, is that it for, okay, we didn't quite finish here. We didn't quite finish these.
Yeah.
Okay, so I say slow raft for times.
Okay.
I think sum appears rarely enough, you might as well raft it.
Okay.
Similar with product. I think union and intersection, likewise, they're pretty rare. Let's raft them.
Okay.
I don't see why we shouldn't raft these ones either, floor and ceiling.
Because they already have a tooltip, and the characters and the characters, right? I mean, the characters don't have anything to go to, right? Because one character is left ceiling and the other character is right ceiling, right? So,
well, you mean if I were to, no, wait a minute. They have something perfectly good to go to. They just go to ceiling. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, right, but okay, yeah. Well,
look, if I saw that in a piece of code, I wouldn't be confused because I know that notation. But one would be confused.
Okay, well now hit that with traditional form. Okay, so
okay. I would remove that. I mean, how much of that are we doing of traditional form? If I do a Bessel J 0x.
So basically older, well, I don't remember, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
So most special functions have tooltips. Most math special functions, if they have a traditional form, they have a tooltip.
But why don't we, I mean, why don't we modernize and why don't we make all of them rafts?
They're not, because they're not rafts.
No, but why couldn't we make them, basically functionally rafts so that you can go to the documentation as well? Because I mean, saying it's Bessel J is useful, but it's even more useful if you can find out documentation about Bessel J.
I would have to think about how doable that is, right? Because all that's there is a template box, right? There are no operators there, right? All there is a template box and an X. The J, the 0, and the parens don't appear anywhere
unless there's
in that
tagging,
cell.
Unless the traditional form formatter tagged it somehow.
Yeah. I was going to say you'd need some raft equivalent of tooltip or something.
Yeah, John, do you have any thoughts on this point?
Yeah, because I mean, you've obviously tagged it to get that tooltip.
Right.
Sorry, I was a little distracted. You're trying to
right. So we have lots of traditional form things, which are template boxes with tooltips.
Uh-huh.
And Stephen is asking, can we somehow promote those tooltips to rafts?
We really should.
We don't have a mechanism for doing that right now. We could create one. It's not obviously silly.
I think that's a desirable thing to do. I don't think we should. The fact that sealing has a tooltip in traditional form should prevent us from rafting it.
Right. Although I'm not sure you'll be able to get to the raft because Stephen.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I understand. I'm saying if for this version it is a bug that sealing does not have a raft, it will be okay.
Okay.
I'm just saying in the future we should plan to have a raft for all of these.
Okay.
Okay. Before we move on from this topic, is that what other kind of tool tipping is there in traditional form? Because I think we should be phasing out tool tipping and phasing in rafts with have a, not to move the analogy too far, but which have a paddle as well, so that you can get to the help pages.
Right. So there's I think these are in the aptly named files tooltip.tr. They might be in misc.tr, but here I can. But a lot of them are traditional form of functions of mathy functions.
Let's see. Are you sending me a link?
Right. So here, maybe the easiest thing would be, will this work? If I take,
what are you doing? Am I about to get something here? There are various other comments on our live stream I want to look at here. Various people complaining about the operator input form page not being accessible. Yes. Being able to star favorite documentation pages. We're hearing your mouse grind. I don't know about favoriting documentation pages. I mean, I think we've had schemes for doing that in the past, which have not been very popular.
To be perfectly honest, what I would like is to be able to favorite certain notebooks so that they always appear in my recent notebook recent list.
That is possible. There just isn't a good interface for it.
Oh, then we should talk after this meeting because I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to do it either. Okay, so that's a UX problem. Let's maybe we can discuss that. Well, we're not going to get to it here, but maybe we can discuss it in the user assistance meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's not particularly high priority compared to the other things we're dealing with, though. But
I know that, but it may be easy if you've already got the mechanism and it's a simple UX. Then,
Stephen, I just put something in chat, which hopefully will open the list for you.
Okay.
And I just scanned it after opening it, and I mean, the overwhelming majority are. So you see, it's the name of the resource, and so and the tooltip. So these are probably.
What are these? Cut, copy, undo. What the heck are those?
To be honest, we'd have to look through. Probably there's some, some interface somewhere that
this
uses
is
this.
Some of this like current memory usage. That has to be
these are tooltips for system information, right? And
I thought there were things like I would have thought that one was from the Mac from 1980.
There are other things in there too. I mean, so I see some stuff from the toolbar and some stuff from various.
Right. So this is the template box tooltips are the ones that sort of are most directly relevant to typeset forms.
Who's been maintaining this stuff?
Me and Lou. I mean, or probably originally Maxime, and since he left, me and Lou. And as you can see, these are almost all mathy special functions, if not all mathy special functions.
Well, there are also things that have special input forms, like mod, for example.
Mod has a special input form?
Special traditional form.
Right. Yes, that's what I mean. So yes, these are all mathy.
What is Polylog 3?
Probably it's the 3-argument form as opposed to the 2-argument form, right? Because it'll be a different structure of boxes.
Okay, well that looks harmless enough. I mean, whether there's more that should be rafted and input in traditional form, I'm not sure, but this certainly looks perfectly reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. People asking about the precedence table. Why isn't precedence documented? Why isn't the function precedence documented? Probably because it doesn't do what you think it would do.
Yeah, I think we started something to sort of tweak it a bit and document it. And
is there a documentation page for it?
I don't think so. Maybe there's an internal one, but
I think it is more horrifying than you can possibly imagine. I mean, because it really gets into the nitty-gritty of the numerical precedence levels for everything.
So yes, there is an internal one that we haven't leaked out, and one of the big issues would be a fairly direct collision between the front end's notion of precedence and the kernel's notion of precedence. I mean, we'd have to have some way to unify changes across both platforms. That would be very not easy.
Yeah, and there's
I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff here. Why does that say precedence level N? And if I go to the precedence form page, oh my gosh, it just crashed. Well, that was the prototype build, so I suppose it's what I get.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. It's crashing repeatedly on startup. See if it makes it. Okay. Let's try that. Oh, we made it. Okay. What was I looking at? I was looking at the precedence form page, which looked to me like it didn't document the precedence form.
Right.
By the way, I would really love it if we had autocomplete up there. Oh no, there we go. Operator with precedence prec. Prec must be an integer. See notes for infix.
Right, which that was one of the.
Oh, this is so horrifying.
Right. I mean, we looked at this a couple of years ago and we planned some improvements and I started working at them and then I was interrupted and I want to circle back.
This is the highest priority of anything.
Right. So, I mean, I think I should circle back to it to at least finish the things I put effort in so that effort isn't completely wasted, even if I don't get it as perfect, to the level I would want to get it to. But it'll still be better.
Yeah, I mean, this whole business, I'm going to tell my story about SMP and its user-defined syntax, which you've all heard, I'm sure. Have you all heard that story?
I have.
Anybody else heard that story? If more than one person has heard it, I won't tell it again. But in SMP, we had this lovely idea. I think it was : equals was a way of defining syntaxes, and all went fine. Well, sort of fine, until some user defined a syntax for U, and they had things like AUB, meaning union. Actually, that user might have been me. I can't even remember. But the problem is that then every time the character U appeared in anything, it turned it into union. But even the thing that did, I think it was, some unset syntax function contained the character U. So there you were, without any kind of
no paddles for them.
Yeah, no paddles. It was a disaster. You simply had to restart. I mean, there was nothing else to do. So that's my bad experience with user. And also, honestly, it's so tricky to get syntax right and not get confused. It's just not something people, should be doing. Unless they write a whole other grammar, which is a completely different project, but that's a different thing. Carl is commenting about how modernization of the docs that were last touched for version 6, that maybe we should let you guys join in. We have in half an hour, we have our monthly documentation status meeting. People are interested. Maybe we should live stream that. I don't see why we shouldn't. Since you guys seem interested in documentation, well, let's plan that. Why not? Let's just, let me send mail to see if that can happen. Okay, let's try and quickly just take a crack.
I think we should do two. We think we should do random generator state, and then we should save the next two for our next meeting because they're both sort of.
Oh yeah, this is the interesting idea from Sander. Semantic hyperglycemia.
Yes, that is my that's my position. So
all right, we'll discuss it.
We'll discuss it. Right, it does some good things. Yeah, and this is another. I think this is also a function from Sander. And
okay,
it does some good things.
So, all right, okay. Let's look at your random state. What should block random do when a stateless method is active?
Right. So normally, if you block random, you do whatever, and then you're back at the same state you were before. But if it's a stateless method, like
you mean like hardware random numbers or something,
right? Or OpenSSL, right? There's
why is that one stateless?
Because I believe because it refuses to give us the state, because then we could crack people's keys.
Okay, all right, fair enough. By the way, did somebody respond about the capitalization of blobs? I think they've not been capitalized mostly.
They've mostly been capitalized. Every single one I wrote had an initial.
All right. Okay. Okay. Fine. Well, just let's make sure it's consistent. Something was not being capitalized recently. Okay. So, well, what choice does it have? I mean, block random can't do anything.
Right. I mean, I think it's only, well, it could issue a warning message and go on. It could issue a message and refuse to do anything.
No, it should not be that obnoxious. I see no reason. Right. I think it's one of these cases where I could imagine a message that's off by default. And when we finally get our exception handling and verbosity system working better, we could allow people to switch it on. But I can't. I just think it's one of those things that's deeply in the noise.
Okay.
I was gonna say, hopefully it's, there's a note about it in the docs for block random, but.
Right. So we'll need to add a.
What is this? Should we document the subvalues?
Right. So a random generator state has 3 subvalues. You can request a hash, which would appear in the.
What does the hash mean? Is that?
That's the hash of the state if it. Maybe you should open the random generator state ref page. It'll have more examples. It's still futurized, so you need to, and it's not ready to be. The notes might be okay. The examples definitely need to be cleaned up before I defuturize it. But, and
is that it?
And that's the dollar variable, and there should be a link there. To random generator state. Oh, maybe I didn't save that, but yeah, if you and there's also a page for random generator state.
Okay. Well, that doesn't mention the subvalues.
It doesn't, which is why it's a question of should we document the subvalues and are the names okay? But it has more examples on them, right? So by default. And right, so we have the fully, the ones where we have the full state information, like extended CA, and they just have a hash, which is literally a hash of the internal numbers, right? The internal data structures.
But you can't reconstruct it from the state hash.
You can, well, not from the state hash, but it tells, right? But you can
tell if it's distinct. You can tell that whether the two things are distinct, but you can't reconstruct them.
Exactly.
Correct. And the hiding inside of it is enough, right? The object has inside of it the complete state data in this case. So you can, in fact.
I understand.
But that's just a way to tell 2 of them apart.
Okay. Well, it's actually more than that. It's so if somebody saves that state in a file and then reads it back and modifies some piece of it, the hashes won't match and seed random will not accept it.
Right. So it's a checksum.
Okay.
In sort of more way than one.
Okay.
Now
All right.
So if you scroll down to the properties, then you'll see that there are basically 3 kinds of generators. So there's the one with the session only hash, which are right in the same session. You can restore them because you can use the hash to find the particular memory location which has the data, but you can't write them to a notebook and restore them in a later kernel session. And then you have OpenSSL where it refuses to give us anything, and so there's none.
I understand.
So okay. The hash subvalue gives you the.
What is it? Is it a string or is it a number?
It's a number, I think.
Okay.
It's a number. It's the result of hash.
Fine. Okay.
On an expert.
It's a number.
I mean, we could display it.
No. It's fine. It's a number. Yeah. That's what we're doing. That's the result of hash is a number, and we're fine with that.
Good.
Right.
Okay. Hold on. I'm just thinking about these names. Okay. Method. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we don't call this state hash. I think calling it hash is a bit confusing, especially since it's called state hash here.
Okay.
And serialized seems wrong. It's serializable, isn't it?
That would have been my preference, but until we decided to document it, I wasn't going to argue with Rob
Well, when you have that straight expression, it either has been serialized or it has not. So it's a done deal. That's it. Whether it's serializable is a function of method.
You know what? The question of serializability is, I mean, what is the user level way of explaining serializability? It's whether you can save it or not.
Yep. Right. So we could call it, well, it's a horrible name, but survives quit.
You know what? I'm Ali on our live stream is asking about the status of our discussion about the red mine items, and I also am confused that is not on my calendar. Maybe somebody could, Devin, could you message people and see if I can get an answer to when that's happening?
Yeah, I can ask our node and maybe Raj.
But as to, I mean, if serializable, I'm fine with that too. I mean, it's...
No, but I don't like that name because I don't think that's a user level name. I mean, what does it mean to a user that it is serializable? It means you can store it in a file. Now, is that the main thing it means, or is there something else?
Basically,
yes.
Okay, so how does that dovetail with our little what are we going to call it? A little tab at the bottom of I don't know, an audio object or something that says, you know, save in. What am I trying to say?
Right. So we have a store now, right? So like if you do a large sparse array, right? So if you do a sparse array of range of, I don't know, 10 to the 5th or something, which is not very sparse, but it'll say data not in notebook, store now. So we could call it storable.
Yeah, that's a bit weird because it is obviously storable in memory.
Right. We could call it file storable or notebook storable. File storable is more correct.
You could also.
Wait a minute. Notebook storable is a non-trivial fact too, because if you reopen this notebook, this random generator state, if it is one of these ones that is serializable, is there correctly. Whereas if it's OpenSSL, it's not there correctly. John, please. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I was just thinking if it's useful to think of it in the opposite sort of way. You know, that's temporary isn't quite the right word here, but if it's
session only or
perishable.
I like it. I'm not sure we should do it, but I like the suggestion.
Perishable is amusing. Session local. Because OpenSSL is session. Session. Well, the other thing we could call it is something like persistence, and then we could call it either session. Session only is at least clear. I mean, really what it is
we could call it restorable.
I think that's very hard to understand out of context.
Make persistent.
No, it's not make persistent. You can't do anything with it. I mean, the problem is that Brian on a live stream is saying if serialized is false, what do? Well, the answer is you're out of luck.
Right. So basically the answer to that question is if you're still in the same session, then it will find it and it will use it. And if you're not in the same session, it will give you a message and saying, well, it can't fully restore the state, so it's going to use the method information that's in the object, assuming it's valid, but use a new state.
This is cross-session, I mean, persistence, really. Bob is asking why we can't use our own thesaurus, and yes, I'm just proud of my my wetware thesaurus being pretty good too. We have tried using Mathematica to create its own function names, and with varying degrees of success. Meaning space is a complicated thing, which I have studied quite a bit. You know, I have a tendency to say that we should call this, you know, cross-session persistent. It's incredibly long and ponderous, but it is fairly clear what it means.
And I mean, I can think of an application for this, but right, I mean, you see it right there. You see its value right there in the typeset form. So it's only in certain very special programmatic sessions where you're like, oh, I need to protect myself in this random code in case somebody decided to be crazy and set, you know, this method. So I'm okay with a long name.
Fine, let's do it. Cross-session persistent, true or false. But when it says method data only, what does that mean, method data only?
It means that there's no state hash present in this, right? Because again, OpenSSL doesn't give us any state data.
Okay, that is a very obscure 3 words, in my opinion. I think it should say state hash, and we don't need to say none there. Why don't we just say paren not available with this method?
Okay.
What Itai's trying to say with that method data only is that if you use that as a seed, it will change the method to OpenSSL, but it won't do anything else.
Right.
Doesn't make any. I mean, so why don't we just say paren not available with this method?
Okay.
And that way, people are, you know, they'll be.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Why it isn't available, you should document in the, you should just say for security reasons, does not allow blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
We're not guaranteeing anything is totally secure, but we're giving people some reason why that's happening.
Okay, so you can skip this one because that's a bug that Rob fixed like half an hour after I created this agenda. And then, right, so if you save the state in a variable, right? So if you create one of these OpenSSL guys and then you seed random with it, then you'll get this, you know, this message about, well, it's only going to use the state data. But if you saved it in a variable and then you did seed random with that variable, then it will go, oh, this is pointer equal to a pre-existing state, and so I'm not going to issue the message. And that seems weird. I don't know how bad of a bug or how hard it would be to issue
well, I think
it
just is a question of rewording the message slightly. I mean, first of all, this is not acceptable. Generated method will be set to whatever the string name is.
Right.
From this random state expression. Oh no, from the random state expression, that's fine. Okay, if we said something like, if we just said, since it is not in the same session or something, since it does not come from the current session.
Well, it is in the same session, right?
No, but the case where it can restore it is when it's still in memory, right?
No, I mean, right, this method has no state data, right? So you're never restoring it to the same state. You're just restoring it to the method. So in both cases, what it effectively did was the same thing. The only difference is it issued a message in this case because this was a new expr with the same full form as state, whereas state is literally the same expr,
right.
because
it's actually it's more special case than that. It's if it's only gonna do that without the message if if the generator has not been changed in the meantime.
Okay, I think this is one of these cases where
give this message, but it seems like, you know, it's not worth slowing everything down to do that. But
let's not. Let's just leave this. It is weird. Put it in possible issues.
Just let me make sure I understood. So, Rob, you're saying that if I did state equals seed random of blah, and then I did random real, and then I did seed random of state, I would get a message?
I believe so, yeah.
All right. Then that makes sense, and I'll make, you know, if not, I'll give you a bug to fix.
Fine.
All
okay.
Right.
Good stuff. For those on the live stream, we will in fact be live streaming our monthly documentation update, and it will start in about 10 to 15 minutes. And thank you all. Talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.